In The Shining, the shine isn't just a psychic gift, it's a tangible supernatural essence known as steam. This energy is directly tied to the raw innocence of a child, and it's the only reason a shadowy group called the True Knocks exist. They don't just hunt these children, they purify them through fear to harvest every drop of their steam. But what if I told you this isn't just a horror movie story? While the shine might look like a metaphor, the truth is actually much darker than you have been led to believe. Today, we are decoding The Shining and Dr. Sleep to reveal what these films are actually revealing to us. Once you see what the shine and the steam secretly represents, and how it connects back to our reality, you will never see this story the same again. Released in 1980, The Shining follows Jack, an author who takes a job as a caretaker of the isolated Overlook Hotel. But this wasn't just a job, it was a setup. When Jack and his wife Wendy and their son Danny arrive, things quickly take a horrifying turn as Jack is possessed by the malevolent supernatural forces living within the walls. Most people think the hotel just wanted Jack to go crazy, but the truth is much darker. The hotel was using Jack as a tool to hunt Danny, specifically because of his shining, which in this universe was pure supernatural essence. This evil force drove Jack to chase his family with an axe, creating the exact kind of terror needed to ripen a child's energy. But thanks to Danny's abilities, they were able to escape the hotel's trap. Little did he know the escape was only temporary, because the shine Danny carries makes him a permanent target for those who feed on it. Decades later, the sequel Dr. Sleep reveals that the nightmare Danny faced at the Overlook Hotel was only a small part of a much larger evil. We find out that Danny, now an adult, struggling with the trauma of his past, is still being hunted. But this time, it's not by a haunted hotel, it's by a nomadic group of predators known as the True Knot. This group is led by a woman named Rose the Hat, and they aren't ghosts. They are psychic vampires who have lived for centuries by hunting down children who have the shining. They track these children, kidnap them, and put them through unimaginable pain because fear purifies their essence into the potent steam. They literally breathe in this steam to stay young and powerful. This confirms that Danny wasn't just a victim of a crazy father. He was being harvested for his life force. While The Shining might seem like a movie about Jack being possessed by a creepy old hotel, the reality is much darker. It's actually about an evil force that hunts the souls and innocence of children to use it as a literal life force. In Dr. Sleep, the haunted hotel evolves into a group of powerful psychics who survive off the steam, the life force of children who have the shine. But don't be fooled, it's the same evil entity behind both stories. These people are using children like batteries to power their own immortality. To understand why children are pursued and exactly what kind of entity is pulling the strings, we have to go back to the Overlook Hotel. In the film, the Overlook is presented as its own evil entity. Many believe the hotel simply chose Jack to lure Danny in, but what most people miss is the very last frame of the movie. This is where they reveal the real entity behind the hotel's evil, and exactly why it's after children. Look at Jack's posture in that final 1921 photo. He has one arm raised pointing up and the other lowered pointing down. This is the as above so below posture, which purposely mimics the Baphomet pose. This is where things get really disturbing. Baphomet is considered one of the horned deities, or the Sabbatic goat. He is seen as a modernized version of the ancient fallen gods like Moloch and Baal, gods who demanded child offerings in exchange for financial blessings and power. In ancient times, followers of Moloch and Baal believed that the life force of the youth was the most potent energy in existence. They believed that by offering this innocence, they could secure their own wealth and status. Baphomet is the modern representation of those same ancient deities. By ending the movie with Jack in that specific pose, the film is showing us that he wasn't just possessed by a hotel. He was possessed by the evil god that had turned the hotel into its temple. He was lured into the hotel to sacrifice Danny to Baphomet. They actually show us the exact moment Jack makes a deal with Baphomet. This happens in the lounge when Jack is at his lowest point. He's sitting at an empty bar and he says he would give his soul for just one drink.
God, I'd give anything for a drink. Give my goddamn soul. Just a glass of beer.
In the world of the occult, words have power. This was a literal invitation. Immediately after he offers his soul, the room transforms. The lights come on, the elite guests appear, and Lloyd the bartender, the entity's representative, is standing right there with a drink for him. He was there to make Jack an offer, the soul of Danny for what he desired so desperately. When he accepted the drink, this was the handshake solidifying the deal. The drink represented the bargain. But notice how Lloyd tells him his money's no good.
No charge, Mr. Torrance.
No charge?
Your money's no good here. Orders from the house.
In this temple, cash is worthless. The only currency is the shine. By accepting that drink, Jack agrees to become the Minotaur in the labyrinth. He agrees to hunt his own son for a seat at the table of the elite. But because Danny escaped, Jack failed to deliver the physical offering. Since Jack couldn't provide Danny's soul, the entity claimed his instead. That's why his soul is trapped in that 1921 photo. He didn't just become a ghost, he became property of the deity he tried to serve. And this brings us to the final interesting detail in the 1921 photograph. Look at the people surrounding Jack. They aren't just random ghosts. They are members of high society. Men in tuxedos, women in expensive gowns, the who's who's of the early 20th century. This is Kubrick showing us the dark truth about how the shadowy groups operate behind the scenes. It's a visual representation of what these members of the elite do to make it to the top. They all have to pay that price to Baphomet to enter the 1% circle. Believe it or not, this connects right back to what we've seen in the recent files. This monster was known for targeting the young for their innocence and youthfulness. Like the True Knot group in Dr. Sleep, these monsters are a part of a secret group that exploits young victims for their innocence, their life force. These people aren't trapped in the hotel. They are there because they are a part of the True Knot of their era. They are the elite who have already successfully made the trade. They offered up their lineage or their shine long ago to secure their place in that ballroom forever. This is what the True Knot group actually is, a hidden society of predators who pretend to be normal people on the surface. But under the mask, they are parasitic vampires who offer children up for immortality and power, just like many believe the elite of our world are doing today. The True Knot represents the nomadic branch of this ancient system, hiding in plain sight while they serve the same entity that was being worshipped on the secluded island. This becomes undeniably clear in the sequel, Dr. Sleep. The movie is primarily about this shadowy group hunting children for their steam. The way these monsters extract that steam is truly horrifying. We see this in the infamous baseball boy scene. After a baseball game, they wait for the boy to be alone, snatch him off the street, and surround him, not just to but to terrorize him. They need him at the height of his fear, because terror purifies the harvest. Once he is completely drained of his life force, they bury him so the world never finds out. While this seems like a movie plot, it is actually a theatrical representation of what these real-life monsters are up to. It has long been alleged that the members of the shadowy elite feed off the fear-infused essence of the innocent. But it goes even darker when you realize what the steam is actually a secret metaphor for. As we saw in the recent files, that monster and his associates were targeting their young victims to harvest their primal vitality. They were obsessed with this untouched pure energy that is only found in the youth, and they wanted to take it from them by force. This innocent life force is exactly what they are referring to when they talk about the steam. It is the most valuable currency in the dark circles of the elite. What they are showing us in Dr. Sleep, when the group is literally sucking the breath out of that child, is a theatrical representation of how these predators consume the generative energy of their victims. This isn't just about a psychic power. It's about the death of a child's most sacred essence to fuel the desires and the longevity of the monsters on that secluded island. They aren't just taking their lives, they are consuming the very thing that makes them human. By using the word steam, the movie is giving us a code for the exploitation of the youth that the elite have been practicing in secret for centuries. And it all goes back to the god they worship. We are constantly being told these are just movies and the twisted horrors shown in them are just art. But with the latest files release, this seems to be an imitation of what these monsters were actually up to. It once again brings up the idea that Hollywood is closely linked to those inner circles, that this on-screen evil is influenced by real-world horror. When we hear about big-name directors and producers being linked to the files, it isn't an isolated incident. We are starting to see reality being shown in what we're told is fiction. A clear pattern has begun to emerge that points us directly to the source. The Shining and Dr. Sleep were both adapted from the novels of Stephen King, one of the most famous horror writers in history. In my last video about his son's movie The Black Phone, we spoke about the strange patterns in his stories. King has built a career on stories where children are targeted by an evil trying to exploit their steam. And the entity is after the children's life force, and just like in Dr. Sleep, it seasons that essence with terror before consuming it. Pennywise the clown terrorizes his victims to maximize their fear, keeping them in his lair while he slowly feeds off them. While the movie shows the kids stopping the monster with their imagination, the original novel tells a much darker story. In the book, the teens engaged in a collective ritual of physical bonding to stop the entity. I literally can't say what they did without getting this video in trouble. If you want to know, just look up how did the Losers Club defeat it in the novel. But I want to warn you, brace yourself. It was a scene so inappropriate and disturbing that it was completely removed from the films. But it's a scene that clearly shows the twisted nature of these narratives. Ask yourself, why is a world-renowned author writing stories where teenage protagonists have to engage in a group initiation to stop a monster? This is the same man who publicly tweeted that the client list was as real as the Tooth Fairy. Even his son's movie, The Black Phone, follows this exact theme. We have to start questioning the people writing these stories, especially when their stories are obsessed with the esteem of the innocent, while publicly claiming the real-world files are a fairy tale. But we have to look past the individual stories and look at the grand design. Why is this specific theme of harvesting the youth woven into the very fabric of our entertainment? By showing us these horrors on the big screen, the elite are conditioning the public to see these concepts as nothing more than spooky movies. They take a terrifying reality, the extraction of the steam or the life force, and they wrap it in a fictional package. That way, when the real-life horrors in the files are released and the truth about the secluded island comes out, the average person is more likely to dismiss it as something out of a horror movie. This is the ultimate defensive shield for those shadowy groups. They reveal the truth in entertainment so it becomes unbelievable. When you look at the sheer volume of these stories, you realize we aren't just looking at the imagination of one writer. We are looking at a coordinated narrative. The same elite who appear in the 1921 Overlook photo are the same ones funding the studios that produce these films. They are signing their work. They are showing us the Baphomet pose, the ritual rooms, and the predatory networks because, in their world, they believe they have to tell us what they're doing before they do it. The files are proving that the lines between on-screen evil and off-screen reality has completely disappeared. The True Knot isn't a fictional group of psychics. It's a nomadic global system that has been operating for centuries, hiding behind the glamour of high society and the distractions of the media. The Shining was the introduction. Dr. Sleep was the confirmation, and the recent files are the final evidence. They are after the steam, the pure generative energy of the youth. They want you to watch all of this as entertainment, never knowing they're showing you their evil on screen. But once you see that blueprint, you can't unsee it. Just like we saw from the movie The Black Phone. If you're interested in knowing how the Black Phone connects to all of this, check out my breakdown on the movie right now. And if you like unfiltered content that reveals the truth the mainstream won't tell you, make sure to like this video and subscribe to join the truth movement. I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.